Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Art of Unraveling. I always love these episodes when I get to interview some of these people I know well, some of them I know sort of well, and some people that I'll be interviewing I don't even know at all. So it's just really fun to hear other people's stories. I know these are the most watched episodes because I can't see who listens to what, but I can see the numbers of listeners, and the interviews are always higher than my podcast. I'm going to try to not take that personally, but no, it's just because people are sharing them with their family and friends. Anyway, I'm very excited for my guest today. Her name's Morgan Lansing. Am I saying that right? Perfect. And Morgan and I met kind of in a funny way for the first time. And it was, she was selling her house and we were interested in buying her house. It was such a cute house. It didn't end up working out. I'm in a different location now, but we bought a different house. But that's how I first met Morgan. And I was attracted to her style. I was like, we have similar styles in a way. And just kind of the similar energies, just really, Morgan's very heart-centered. And if you know her, you know she's just a light. We've since stayed in touch in different ways, but I don't know a lot about Morgan. So I'm going to be learning along with all of you. And I know she's going to bring some really beautiful topics to the Art of Unraveling today. So welcome, Morgan. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Erin. It's a pleasure.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about yourself? Or did I cover the topics? I mean, if you could share anything you want.
Yeah, well, I loved the way that we met, and then our paths have just continued to tangle up with each other. So I think that that's beautiful. I agree. The second I met you, I just loved your calm and steady energy. I just thought it was wonderful. And it has been a exciting time leading up into this conversation. So I'm excited for today, and surface level things that may or may not be interesting. I am married to my high school best friend. His name is Corey, and we have 3 children. So our oldest is 16 and his name is Aiden. And then we have Everett, who is 7, and Malin, who is 2.5. So we have a big range of ages. And Aiden, his dad, actually, I was married to his dad before I was married to Corey. So the stretch in age, is a part of that. And I am a new business owner. So by new, I would categorize that as 3 years and under. And I am in my family's insurance business, which was never the plan, but it is where I am. And it's going well, but it's been a wonderful, and sometimes hard season of learning. And really the reason that I'm there is a part of our conversation today. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh, thank you, Morgan. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, the first question I always like to ask the guests are, what are you unraveling? And I always say it could be something from your past, that we're always kind of unraveling things even from our past, right? Or it could be something you're really in the middle of unraveling right now. So is there anything that comes to mind that you're unraveling in this moment?
Yes, and it's both. It's a past occurrence, but it's a huge part of my here and now. Grief is my current season of life. We lost my mom it'll be 2 years next month. So while it happened in the past, it's very present in our everyday, missing of her and transitioning to a different phase within our family. So
I'm so sorry to hear that. I can feel the grief and the weight that's what's on your heart. Yeah. How have you been navigating that? I mean, that's such a big question, but what are some I mean, what has that brought up for you, other than obviously a lot of sadness and all the stages of grief that you go in and out of in multiple different ways, but like, how have you been navigating it?
I think I've been surprised at just, have you ever had that feeling where you were thinking, there's no way that I will make it through that thing? If
Yeah.
that were to happen, it would be the end of me. And
Yeah.
I think because we dealt with, my mom had cancer when I
Mm,
was senior in high school, and the cancer that ended up taking her life was not the same as what she had when I was in high school.
really?
And, but in high school, when the news came that she had breast cancer, I remember feeling like there's no way that I could ever make it through that. There's no way that I could live my life without my mom.
Mm,
And fast forward to present time, I think one piece of the getting through is realizing that you do you do go on, and you do keep living even though she is not. So that has been surprising to me, because I did feel like I would probably die too.
yeah.
So there is that.
Mhm.
Without the support of my husband and the joy of our children as a welcome distraction, as trying to be a mom and carry through has been, you know, a weight of its own. And remembering to turn around and go back to your kids because they lost someone too.
Mm,
And then, I have my dad is still living and my sister is living. And so the three of us coming to understand how our family is without her has been easy and hard. And I think more than anything, the first year kind of felt like a blur. You were moving in and out of days, but I would have to say that the biggest continuing driving factor is that your family needs you. My children needed me regardless of what I've been going through. So getting through it, I would award that to my family. And
yeah.
shortly before my mom became terminal, we had a new baby. So we had that interesting dynamic of new life on earth, and a life I loved so much, leaving it. So it was the and both happening at one time. And I think realizing that and both goes on all the time in simple things and in complicated things has been a huge realization for me during this particular stage.
Wow, Morgan. You share just so many, excuse me, so many things that people to think about, like, yeah, like, I guess my first question comes, you said your family, you have to be there for your kids. Um, there's probably like the thought, I just want to be in bed. I don't want to do anything, right? I just want to, like, in some way check out, because it's just so overwhelming. I can only imagine. And yet, like you said, your kids lost somebody too, and you have to be there, and obviously be there to take care of them as well. So I guess my question is, like, I'm sure it's been like a day-to-day thing. Like, how do you manage your feelings, and that you're taking care of those around the grief, and also being able to show up to your family? Because I can only imagine people listening that have gone through something similar, how tough that juggling act can be.
Yeah. I journal a lot. I'm grateful for the journals that I kept during that time, because when I go back and read them, there's things that I don't remember now that I was journaling then.
Wow.
In the process of losing my mom, special things that she said or special moments that we had. I think the support of my husband to take that break, to lay in bed or lay on the couch or stay up late and have time to myself, or I run. So running has been a really cathartic moment for me when it does feel like too much and I need to get that energy out.
Yeah.
I have utilized spiritual connections. I've connected with mediums and energy healing sessions and therapy. So,
Yeah.
I think it's been a mixture of all of the things that I know how to do for myself. Being outside in nature is so grounding and reminds you of life cycles. And again, having the joy of a new baby or a little one in the house, it's almost like it was planned to have that happen at the same time. So I don't think I'm always great at it. I think
I'm sure none of us are, right? There is no perfect manual to get through this.
No. And, I think I've tried to be really open with my kids and let them see me cry and feel all of the feelings. And I think that this particular experience, sometimes when someone is ill or you're going through an experience, you just have to get through it. And I am a person that will kind of be like, okay, I'll put it in this box and I'll go back to that box when I have more headspace to do it. And I think when you lose a parent, especially a parent you're so close with, you're just forced to deal with it in the here and now because it hits you like a wave and there's no putting water in a box, right? So you have to face it. And I think that has been, showing my children that you can be sad and that you can also have joyful moments and that you can get through it without necessarily taking it out on, on them or on their dad. And so it's very, very layered.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you bring up such a good point too, because and I could see you, I think when you see somebody that maybe you don't know super well, you assume certain things. And I assume, Morgan, that you're always like a bubble of light and happy and joyful and peaceful. And I think probably to some extent you are, but then you bring up that point too of like, not taking it out. I could never imagine you taking anything out on your kids or your husband, but nobody is immune to that in the heat of a moment of stress. Or that building up and then it just kind of explodes if we haven't been taking care of it. So
yeah, right.
But yeah, I can't even imagine you doing that.
Well, I work really hard not to do that, but I mean, I think that everyone, yes, everyone has an imperfect moment, and that's where you have opportunity for repair. So
yeah, totally. How have you noticed like the stages of grief come for you? Like have they been, because they're never just like, and I don't even have them in the front of my mind, so I don't even remember what they all are. Denial and all of that. I know they don't just go step by step by step in my own experiences with grief. But how have you experienced that, losing somebody that was so absolutely close to you? I think there's like different levels of grief. I think, I think about this is in absolutely no comparison to what you're going through, but losing my dog was like, he was my soulmate for 13 years. Saw me through some of the darkest moments of my life, and losing him, it was just, I didn't feel like I could go on. Like I couldn't even walk downstairs because I would like see him downstairs, and it was a whole thing. So I think it's just, I don't want to minimize my grief versus yours. I just want to just blanket say that like we have grief about a lot of things. And I think as a society, I don't think we acknowledge grief, like the grief of losing a job, the grief of coming out of a pandemic, the grief of, there's so many things that we grieve.
Mhm.
And yours would be like on that far end, like losing somebody that was so close and special to you.
Mhm.
But all grief, deserves the same level of attention, in my opinion.
Yeah, all grief matters, and whether
Yeah,
it's loss of your pet or you've gotten divorced and you're grieving the loss of
right,
what you had a picture in your mind that your family would be like,
right.
mm, or to the extent of a parent, or I haven't experienced a child loss, but I mean there are so many
Mm,
different caveats to,
right.
but it is a process for us all, and I would describe it almost like a blender because it's all of it at one time. And I think that there's different ways to absorb it. We knew that it was coming because of
Mm,
diagnosis and because
yeah,
of what medical journals would tell us about the type of cancer that she had. And I mean, when that little by little, that moment is getting closer to you, it's anticipatory. So there's that side of it. And then there's the after it actually happens. And I think that for me, when she was diagnosed when I was a senior in high school, the realization of having to face her mortality at that age, and she would probably tell you that I was the difficult one, but I didn't feel that way. I felt like when sometimes my friends were going through things with their moms, that I just had this understanding that it wasn't promised to me that she would be there. And just
mm,
that view of life is different and it hits people at different times. And so I think to be that young and have that perspective was a gift because I
yeah,
feel like some things that maybe would have become an issue or would have been a stupid disagreement between us. I really tried my best not to engage in those types of things because we got to keep her, and
right.
and
Mm,
she did so much growing after her first diagnosis and um, was just, she did everything right. And it was a beautiful thing to watch. And she taught us self-advocacy in the medical field and how you are it, you are all you have when you are going through something so
mm,
life-changing. They may be removing body parts and recoveries from surgeries and things like that.
right.
And so there's those immediate changes that happen. The loss of hair, I can remember when she started losing her hair and just those shocking things that, you absorb them. Um, and they're kind of in your packet of what you hope will not happen, but also you don't forget those moments. They're just kind of burned into your memory. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
in the actual losing of her, I think um, it's it's just come in different stages. And I have such a well of empathy for anyone in the early hours, days, weeks, months of losing someone that they
Mhm.
cherished. And it felt like a fog, and it felt like um, the joyful moments seemed very far away for the
Mm,
first, for sure, the first 3 to 5 months, without her. And I took on her role in our family business. And so along with that, getting into a groove of how she and my dad did things versus, what I brought to the table as far as technology capabilities and um, relating to clients and stepping into her shoes and almost some days feeling like I was playing dress up, sitting at her desk in
wow.
her office and talking to her beloved clients. And I mean, it's
Wow.
really quite an experience. And to hear, I think that was a gift to be able to hear from people along the way in that first year, and to talk with them about her and to cry with them about her, because, you know,
Wow.
business becomes more than just business sometimes. And she,
Yeah.
yeah, she cultivated beautiful relationships, and I get to be a part of that. And so it's a way that she lives, but it's also, you know, some days you just cry, you know, you're just,
Yeah.
um,
The
but every,
waves just come.
yeah, yeah. And every time somebody wants to talk about her or hear her story, then she lives again for a few minutes. So,
Mm. What a unique situation, Morgan, to like step into her role, you know, after she passed. Like that is such a unique experience.
mhm,
And I'm sure like, yeah, just multi-layered hard and like you said, brought a lot of joy being able to speak to different people about her and see the relationship she built. But also, I can only imagine it was probably very difficult too. Like, it's almost like you weren't allowed to escape feeling all the feelings of grief just by this role you took on too.
and I think that there's something in that for me, you know, about really feeling it, because being a former compartmentalizer and
Right.
literally placing myself in a situation in which I must feel it. I've surrounded myself in it. And so, um,
Wow.
did I know
So
that
unique.
going in? Not really, but is that what I've realized in this process? Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Sometimes it just seems like you said your youngest being born. It just seems like some things are just by design almost, doesn't it? It's like this was just created a little too, you know, not perfectly because you lost your mom, but like it was almost like some, what do you call that, God or divine or whatever, you know, force kind of just created this way for you to move through this.
You know, Malin's entrance into the world was such a beautiful time. We waited for her. She was the last, and we didn't know. She ended up being, you know, scheduled. I was induced. It was during COVID times. It was not what we saw coming when we got pregnant, and
Right.
we're looking forward to the birth of our last child. And it went from your husband might not be able to be in the room with you, to, okay, he can be in the room with you, but it's only you two. And I mean, so it was very different than the birth of my boys. And in some ways, there's gifts wrapped up in that, you know, that she had kind of a difficult birth. And so to have
Mhm.
that time to only recover and to only be with her and Corey was amazing. And also, there's such beauty in the excitement of a family coming to see their newest member. I mean, there's all of that joy, but we had to do it different that time. And mom had waited on an appointment, you know, at Mayo Clinic until after Malin was born. And just the unbridled joy that came with her birth and just getting to experience that with her without the cloud of what already was and we didn't know it yet, you know.
Mhm.
And then as she was in her dying process, just I remember when it seemed like they did the high five, you know, where I could see Malin speeding up and bursting into life, and I could see that mom was slowing down and she was getting ready to exit. And
Wow.
Malin was 3 weeks old when we learned what was ahead. And I just remember saying to Corey, I said, we are going to rock this baby in and we are going to rock my mom out. And it
Mm.
feels like too much to hold at the same time, but also it was the gift in it. So
Wow, Morgan. Mm. I can just feel all of that. Whew, I just need to sit with that for a moment. It's hard to just like, oh, let's just jump into another question. I mean, oh, that's like a lot.
yeah,
There's no getting around that.
Mhm.
I can't imagine, like, so what's coming to me is so many questions, but when you said, do you have that thing or that person that if they were to go, you'd feel like you just can't go on? For me, that was always my grandmother,
Yeah.
which some people know. Maybe if you don't know me that well, you may not know, but like, she's been having dementia. So it is kind of this, she's now in a home. And so it's been this
Gradual.
slow degenerative process. And it's a little bit different when, they're in their 80s, versus however old your mother was. It doesn't make it any easier, but you can understand that, okay, she lived a good life, but I've never experienced, I mean, I guess that's my experience of a loved one dying, but like in front of your eyes, but it's a little different because it's the mind versus you're seeing the physical body deteriorate and all that comes with that.
Yeah.
I don't even know what my question is here, but I just don't know how I really don't know how people do that. How do you, like, and my grandma lives 3.5 hours away. So it's almost impossible for me to be there all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know how do you do that? How do you watch somebody die? Like I can't even imagine.
Well, first,
that's not a question, but
no, but first, I'm sorry about your grandmother. And I know that process and those milestones that come with the degenerating of losing oneself. I know for me, what that felt like. And I'm sorry that you're having those moments because they are so hard. And how did I do it? I had to. I didn't have another choice. And it felt like falling off a cliff. I remember feeling frantic because she had changed so much to me, and we had the gift of hospice. And something funny that happens is you intersect with people that do something every day that you've never done before. That's changing everything about your moments. And it's like they're steering the ship, right? Like they're guiding you along. But I remember feeling like, how can you be so calm? She's so different than how she was even a month ago. Like, am I the only person seeing this? And I mean, that's not what the supportive hospice is about, but when you're the family member sitting on the side, it can't help but be a part of that, and but it felt like falling off a cliff. And then, to watch the suffering, I think there's a place where you just, you love your people so much, you don't want them to suffer anymore.
Right.
She didn't want to die. She was 64. She was young. She said she was mad that she wasn't going to be there, to watch me.
I can only imagine.
And I just was like, Mom, I'm mad too. Like, how am I supposed to raise my daughter without you? And she's here.
Yeah, she is. You mentioned, it's like you mentioned it before and then you just mentioned it there. It's just like, how do you do it? You just do. You just go on. And I think that is the answer for anybody that's been through hell, in whatever hell that is how do you do it? You just do. I remember when, again, this is in absolute no comparison, but when my dog was passing, I remember, because I'd never experienced anything like that. I've been lucky to not have a lot of death in my life. At that point, my grandma was fine, and I remember another person I didn't know very well, like a friend of a friend, and she was a dog groomer, and she like came over to my house, and like when none of my friends could, and she sat with me, and she's like, every day it's going to get a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And I just hung on to that because, you know, and I know when you're grieving, and I know in my own grieving process around that and other things, it's like I said, it comes in a wave, and then the wave goes back out to sea, and maybe a month from then another wave comes, or next week another wave comes. You know, there's no predicting it.
Yeah.
But it does get a little bit easier day by day. I don't know if that was the same for, that was the way it was for losing a pet. I'm sure with a family member that you're really close with, you know, of course it's going to get easier at some point, but those waves are still going to come, and they may be coming for the rest of our lives, right? Like we might just have to be okay that one day the wave just takes me under, and I have to stay in bed a little bit longer and ask my husband for some extra support with the kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think you ever stop grieving, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think that when you experience deep grief, because I don't think it's a comparison, but I think that there is surface level
Well,
grief, and then
I don't
no,
want to
I
compare
just
losing my dog to losing your mom, but if
you got to go with
if
what
you
you
knew
got.
me, you'd know it was very, very, very close.
Yes, and I think that when you go through deep grief, and then you see other people going through it, it changes the way that you respond to people. You know, it changes things that you will say or not say to people.
Yeah.
I've had teammates that have lost parents recently after mom, and it's like I'm not in their shoes, but I've been there, you know, and
That's right.
I want to turn around and grab their hand, you know, because it's just like, I see you, and I see you living joy with your children. I see you showing up to your life, and I want you to know how beautiful that is. I know how hard it is to do that. And sometimes it's all you can do, and sometimes it's the distraction from. But I think the biggest thing that's changed for me is just when I see the next person going through it, I just want to wrap them in a hug, you know, in words or in person, and just let them know that, you know, we can sit in silence, we can sit with tears, we can talk about it or not.
Right.
No.
You touch on a really good point there, because I think it's getting a lot better, but in our society, there's this like, it's going to be okay, you know, like, I'm trying to think of some of the phrases that we, you know, blanket phrases we say, like
everything happens for a reason, or
right.
And it's well intentioned. It always comes from a place of care.
It is, but it's people that I believe sometimes, I'm not going to generalize this, but I believe sometimes it's people that maybe haven't felt the deep depths of pain, you know, that say these things. Because I think, to your point, you can now be there for other people that are going through the same experience, because you went to the darkest place, you know, of losing this person that you thought you couldn't go on after they left this earth. And I think that's I'm chuckling because it's like, I'm the type of person that I won't say this to somebody in grief, but I really believe everything happens for a reason. I would never say that to somebody in pain. It's just a belief system I hold. And it doesn't make any pain or trauma that we experience okay, or that we're asking for more of that. But I do really, really personally believe that our greatest pain becomes our greatest joy when we use it to help another. That's what a pastor told me in my darkest night of the soul. And it's a lesson I've lived with forever. And I really believe God, source, universe gives us experiences for whatever reason sometimes
Mhm.
to be able to be a light to others in their dark moments, which is what you're doing just by showing up here today.
Thank you. It's I agree. I just think when you have the raw, fresh wound of whatever has happened, sometimes it's better to just be quiet and just hold space with someone, you know. I think that that's
Amen to
what
that.
yeah. Yeah.
And but that's scary for a lot of people. They
Mhm.
don't know what to do. They don't know how to fill that. They want to fill that space or that quiet, or they just want you to feel better because it's making them feel uncomfortable. I mean, it's like it's a little bit of their own kind of trauma response, a
Sure.
little bit of a coping mechanism coming up. But yeah, like let's,
Mhm.
if you take nothing from this podcast, you know, please just like learn to sit with somebody else in their pain and don't feel that you don't have to do anything. You don't have to take it
Mhm.
from them. You're not going to be able to take it from them. And you don't have to say anything. You can just, like you said, hold their hand and just sit there.
And I think another thing that this grief in particular has taught me is how to hold myself, you know, how to remember that it's Malin has brought up so much of it for me, but you know, she went through this phase where I would leave the room and she would cry
Mm.
real tears, just like I was leaving her tears.
Oh.
And I remember feeling often that I would say in my mind, "Baby, I feel the same," you know,
Oh.
and just learning to cradle myself
Mm.
in those moments and give myself permission,
Wow.
just fall, you know, into inside this adult woman is a tiny girl who loved her
Mm.
mom and misses her. And all of those people that I have been miss her. And to show up for that, you know, has that's been a big one for me.
Oh my gosh, Morgan, you touch on. Ooh, I like just want to snap clap for a second, which is not an appropriate reaction, but because of the fact that that is such a big, that's what I've been telling so many people, you know, so many clients of mine, people that go through my Lightworker Academy training. It's like you can hold other clients, you can hold other people around you. You don't have to be a coach or a healer. You can hold other people around you, your kids, your family, your clients, to the level and degree that you hold yourself, and the level and the degree to which you can hold your own discomfort and like sit in it and just be with it and not need to, same thing what we were just talking about, not need to fix it, not need to change it, not need to push it away. And that, if you can learn that, like, in my opinion, not that we're here to talk about success, but like if you, to the level and degree you can hold yourself, to the level and degree you'll be successful in life. And that's kind of like what I believe, right? So I, you painted that in such a beautiful way that like, here's your little girl crying
Yeah.
out. I'm gonna start crying. I've already started crying in this
Oh,
podcast today. Wow, that was just like very powerful imagery that I'm sure everybody is touched by. Whew, okay. Wow. Yeah. Thank you for being so brave to go through this work and to not push it down. Like, you're a recovering compartmentalist. I'm a recovering escape
yeah.
artist. So
Yeah.
I would like, how do we escape these feelings? What can we do? Can we zone out on Instagram? Can we zone out on Netflix? Can we put all of our attention into our kids and just be all
Do
about our
that
kids
thing.
24/7?
Yeah.
There's so many ways that we can check out. And you, in some ways, have been forced to be there, sit through it. And in some ways, you've been choosing that too. And
Yeah.
I commend you on that, because
It's been
You're
highly
gonna
uncomfortable.
highly what? I'm sorry, I interrupted
Been
you.
highly uncomfortable. So,
100%. Oh, okay. I don't want to ask that question yet. I want to kind of just bring this to, you said you went to a medium.
yes.
I'm curious, like, because I really believe our loved ones are always with us. She's
Mhm.
still with you. She's just now in a different form, but I guarantee she's guiding your life and helping you. And I'm just curious, how was that experience with the medium, and where do you feel her in your life now?
There isn't a place I don't feel her now. It took a while to feel her though. And I
Yeah,
think that going to the medium was an expression of that. I was grasping for her because
of
I
course.
couldn't watch her walk through the door. And I was looking for comfort when I went to the medium that I use. And it has been such a giving
Mm.
experience for me. Just mediums have been a part of my life since I was 22. And
Oh,
I'm now
wow.
37, and I've
Amazing.
always had really neat, unique experiences when I've been a part of those. And my mom specifically, um, her smile when she was happy was one of the most beautiful things on earth. And what that looked like is how it feels when I hear from her. And um, just very steady and affirming things, as you watch someone die and become more, I would say, infantile in responses, because it is kind of the
Mm.
shrinking back into from what we came from. And I
Yeah,
think that's painful when you've known your parent as a parent, and
yes,
or your grandparent as your guide, or whatever, whoever that important person is for you, to watch them unbecome
yeah.
is
That
painful.
that was the hardest for me too. Like, not to just to interject, the one little piece was like going back and seeing my grandma. I think I shared this on the podcast, and she was like hugging a little baby doll, and like kissing it on its forehead. And there, I felt my little girl inside of me, my little me, and she was screaming, "Pay attention to me, grandma!" Like it was, and I had to like work with my internal parts, because it's like I could
Mhm.
tell grandma was getting comfort from that
Mhm.
baby in that moment. It was like a self-soothing practice for her.
Yeah.
And yet here I am. Yeah, like I just want my grandma. I want you
Mhm.
to, I want to sit in your lap. It's just like I wanted to
Yeah.
revert. Yeah, but you're seeing them anyway. So yes, I understand what you're saying there. It's
Yeah.
extremely excruciating.
Yes. And in, I think the most important experiences that I've had with interactions with the medium have just been those loving, affirming things that are, for anyone that hasn't, if you have a strong connection with someone, they may show you places within themselves that were sick that we didn't know were sick. Um,
Mm.
I suspected that perhaps the cancer had gone to her brain at the end, because her handwriting changed, and, just things that had always been constant weren't anymore. And so anyway, in one of those conversations, mom confirmed to me, and was apologetic almost, and just in the way of like, I know that that was really hard for you, and but I'm mommy again, I'm in a
Mm.
higher level, and I'm all around you, and
Mm.
remember me that way, and
Oh my gosh.
those have been the some of the moments that are just so freeing to hear. And
Yeah.
I sometimes have the feeling of like I'm tucked into her, like when we would snuggle or she'd come in the room, she would, slip her hand around my waist and then hug me in real tight to one side. And so I always just kind of have this warm feeling on my left side, like she's just right there, she's got me tucked in. And I feel grateful to be able to sense those types of things.
Yeah.
And I have a beautiful chime that was gifted to me by my husband's aunts, and it only will ring if the wind is going a certain way. And so whenever I hear it, I just think, I'm always like, hey, Mom, how you doing? What are you trying to tell me? Kind of like just get my attention. But another funny moment with the medium was we were talking about signs and what the sign was, and my mom goes, well, I don't know, you've been asking for everything, so I've been doing everything. I've been sending birds and and I just started laughing because I was like, oh my God, I've been confused, but every time I see it, I'm like, it's got to be her. So there's just those, just those comforting, like, and things that only, I think the beautiful part of connecting with the medium is things come up that only that only hold the meaning for you, and it's coming to you because of that. And so that gift, I went probably 4 or 5 times the first year, and this year I've done one, but I haven't felt that same level of like, I just got to hear what she has to say, because I feel like I'm hearing what she has to say because I'm not so deep in grief, and I'm still deep, but I'm not so deep that I can't hear it or see it or sense it anymore.
Wow. That's amazing. I do believe that they'll always be around you, that they can communicate.
Yes.
I just have to share this story too, and then we can wrap it up. But just on this topic, so just because a couple podcasts back, I did talk about grief that I was experiencing at that moment. It would be my stepdad's cousin. So I didn't know him very well, but grief hits you. It hits you no matter what. It's like, and it was a tragic accident, and it was just, I didn't imagine this person was going to go, like I hadn't seen him in years, but it's like, oh yeah, Clay will always be there, whatever. His nickname was Buck. His funeral was last Saturday. I could not go back home because it's a 3.5-hour drive and I had to work. I did teach in Cedar Rapids on Sunday. I'm driving to Cedar Rapids, and in front of me, I just happened to look up, and the license plate said Buck 7. Buck was his nickname. His funeral was the day before.
Right.
And it's like I think because I'm sensitive, he's definitely been around my presence.
Yeah.
And my stepdad, I sent it to him, and he happened to be with the family and showed them that picture, and they were all just like smiles from ear to ear, So it's like, they will communicate. He knew I was the one that would be like, oh, like
I see you.
would get the signs. Yeah. Right. So don't ever, to anybody listening, don't discredit that. I know that, goes with different belief systems, and whatever your belief system is great, but I would never discredit that your loved ones aren't around, because in my experience, they most certainly are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Morgan, just to wrap things up, is there anything you've given people so many things to think about and digest and work through, but I always like to end every podcast interview with the question, what's your advice to somebody who's in the middle of their unraveling, in the middle of the storm, in the middle of something hard, be it grief or whatever. Grief comes in so many different ways, as we talked about. What would you tell somebody in those moments?
Be kind to yourself and feel what you're feeling, because the feeling of it is going to allow you to move forward and to understand that you do have it within you to carry on, live on. I don't like saying move on, but I like the idea of
Yeah.
living on. And I think that when you allow yourself the gift of feeling whatever is happening, you are teaching yourself, you are teaching someone around you, you are providing an opportunity to help the next one behind you, you know, and
Yeah.
to know yourself in that intimate way is, I believe, the most important relationship that we have. And so feel it and don't stop feeling it, and don't be afraid to share it, because you don't ever know how much somebody needs to hear exactly what it is that you have to say. And there were so many times that I went running for books, and I mean, I have just been podcasting my brains out for the last couple of years. And everything that I listen to, there's a nugget of truth in it that is a gift to carry forward. And so just keep going. And it may not feel like you can today, but tomorrow or an hour from now, if you're going to turn this off and take a nap, you might wake up and feel different. And then when those moments come, just appreciate their beauty, because, you know, there was an evening in October, it was right before Halloween, and I love Halloween time. And we were doing our pumpkin carving, and the kids were all around, and I make them watch Hocus Pocus every year.
Love it.
And I was jumping around the house, you know, jumping for joy. And my oldest looked at me and he just said, "Mom, I haven't seen you like this in a really long time." And I just looked at him and I thought, man, you surprise me every time. You're the most observant, and I don't ever see it coming when he shares something like that. But it was so important to me to know that they could see me coming back to life in the ways that they love me most, because part of you does die when someone you love dies, and then you come back to life. And so keep going.
Oh my gosh, Morgan. That was seriously so well said in so many ways. I feel like we could keep going on and talking about this forever. You have so much wisdom to share from this experience. And it's because you have been doing the work, right? Feeling your feelings, everything that you just talked about. And I just commend you, because it is not easy we are designed, our society is designed to help us check out very, very, very easily. And to go in there and do that unraveling is, yeah, commendable. Thank you so much for being here. I don't think we left anything out, do you? I think we covered.
No, I don't think so. I think it's a gift to talk about a woman I love so much, that I miss so much. And I think the space that you're providing for people to share, so that it is a way of turning around for the next person. So thank you for providing this space for people to share what they know about easy things, hard things. It's important.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for being vulnerable enough to share. I know this will touch many, many people. And to all of you, if you, I always love to hear, you know, what you get from the podcast. So feel free to reach out on Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok at Pure Light Healing. You can also email me at erin@purelightwellness.com. And we just thank you for showing up here today. I keep getting just a little hit. If you're open to this, Morgan, just to completely finish. Sometimes I do this. I do little mini sessions on people, but I just keep feeling the call to just release a little energy at your heart center, if you'd be open to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to do just a little bit of Reiki just at your heart. So I might go quiet here for a moment. I'm sure probably your mom is telling me to do this. I am not a medium, but I do, get messages in various degrees. So we're just gonna help release some of that. And know that as I release it for Morgan, I'm just gonna send it out to all of you as well, just releasing just some of the pain we all carry at our heart centers. If you've never listened to any of my past interviews where I do clearing on other people, I do yawn when I do that. It's just something that happens. So obviously, if you're driving, don't close your eyes. But those of you that are listening, be mostly silent here for a couple more moments, and just kind of just sit with your eyes closed unless you're driving, and just receive. A little heart clearing. And let's just do together a couple, I call it glow ups, to just help finalize and release anything. So just together, those of you listening can do this too, just putting your feet flat on the floor and just taking a big inhale, and imagine that there's a golden light hovering above the top of your head, and breathe in a little bit more, Morgan, and those of you listening, and imagine that this golden light comes down through your crown, and it's the most healing, lovely golden light, and it just starts to swirl throughout your entire being. It picks up any stress, any tension, any negativity, and I ask that you hold your breath as you use this visualization, and then as you exhale, you can just imagine thick black clouds of smoke. I like to go when I do that. Yeah, and just imagine thick black clouds of smoke that go out through the soles of your feet, and that's all that stress, that tension, that negativity being released. Let's do that one more time. So inhale, golden light comes in through the crown. And just hold the breath. And if you have any place in your physical body that feels tight or tense, you can send that light right to that place. And just, it's like a swirling energy. So it just, I'm making motions with my hands. People can't see that, but I'm a very visual person. So I have to visualize like a little tornado in there, and it just picks up that stress, that tension. And then again, big exhale through your mouth, and use that imagery of those thick black clouds of smoke that go out through the soles of the feet down into the earth. And then let's just take our hands on our heart. I know from all of those beautiful souls that are listening, and from my heart, thank you, Morgan, for opening up your heart and sharing with us today. And what a beautiful story, what beautiful moments you've shared. And I'm just super grateful for you.
Thanks
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.